Alrighty, daily trading recap review for this Thursday, the 16th of December, 2021. Market for the day, little 0.88% day for the red on the SPY that we're showing, coming back on the nice green day it had yesterday. Still just tapping around all-time highs though, once again. Producing a little bit of wider range. Let's see where the VIX is at right now too, just for volatility's sake. Still around that 19 to 21-ish range, so nothing crazy there as of right now. We're pushing over $100 million volume in shares on SPY, which is good to see. At least where we go from here. Interesting ride to be a part of, to watch in the next few weeks here as we come to the end of the year. Market internals for the day, dollar volume, NASDAQ $263 billion volume as of 40 minutes after the close. NYSE $330 billion volume, OTC's $2.1 billion volume, just for reference for me there. Two traders for me on the day. Call it kind of a break-even trade on one and a nice little 6% winner on the first one there. But yeah, just really not a lot. I was not confident on a lot coming into today, especially everything coming up on the scanners. Did not have a lot coming in on the watch list, prepping in the after hours from yesterday for coming into today. Just not really much else than that. It's just one of those days that kind of got to go do something else or keep your mind busy with other things. Had one mover in ADGI. That was good to see. A little short squeeze. We'll get into show that one in a little bit, but did not touch it at all later in the day. Let's get into it. GRTX I'll start off with. Nice little short. I've been trading this one the past 3 days now. I've been able to get the screen recordings for all 3 of those days, which is funny. I didn't even realize I was doing that, but that was a nice screen recording today to watch too on this one for the time and sales level 2 going on that one. Third day surge. This trade was pretty much specifically modeled off of the sentiment that this type of trade has been showing these past few days. SGMA was that type of chart, and BLU specifically as well too. That was yesterday specifically. I can even bring that one up just as reference for that day. Third day was yesterday. I'm honestly forgetting right now if I actually traded it to the short side then, but you can see it had this little attempt to be this little third day surge volume, but it was just a little bit too exhaustive, a little bit too fast, too soon, and just pre-ejaculated before anything bigger could consolidate and grow out of that move. So it had a nice little sell-off for that morning session, and today was the same thing, just kind of rest day, but still holding that range. So I'm definitely going to keep watching BLU there, just as a reference back to GRTX. So this, trade was modeled off of that same thing, that same sentiment of I'm just a big kind of modeler of my trading patterns off of what is happening or what is going on in the market. And you can relate that to a lot of different trading styles and maybe sympathy style of runners. I could see that being a similar type of trading brain mindset that way. But it's for me too, is you can develop all these playbook trades and say, okay, panic dip buy for OTCs, big one, breakout trade, multi-day consolidation, third day surge type of play, yada, yada, yada. List goes on and on of how many trades you can develop. But if the market is saying, for me, especially too, morning dump trade that I've just was slamming on for a long time in that summer session, they were coming out pretty much like 2 a day almost. And I had to open up 2 different margin accounts while I was still under PDT in order to be trying to hit those. It was, as the market was saying, hey, this is possible. This is what you can do for these types of charts. I was saying, okay, I will follow along with you and take my little share as much as I can, or as long as I can. But when it was done, it was just kind of done. We see a few of those little stragglers here and there, or I do, of what I'm identifying for that type of pattern. But when that trade isn't there, and it's just, then you just have to realize and adapt to it and say, okay, it's not there. You just can't force it on the market or believe that, well, this is the pattern. And I have this many charts to say that when it does this specific price action, it has this volume, it's this type of float, it's this sector, this is what it does. Price is always going to be king, and you have to respect what's there. And I have to keep constantly reminding myself that. And that's why I kind of align myself more and more to that, to just disregard, understand the fundamentals and the principles of what the stock market is, what the specific pattern is, but overall respect the price and respect what the market is saying for these two. And I had a good text with Chris today too about that, of he was putting in the perspective of being greedy on these types of trades, that he's looking for that 10% move, that I definitely found myself caught in that a lot, of looking for 10% profit minimum and wouldn't be taking anything less than that, and turning some potential winners, nice little winners, 5, 6, 7, 8% profit winners, into end up being like break even or eventually sometimes even losers that way. But it's not necessarily just such a greedy thing, but it's adjusting to the market and saying, market sentiment right today is saying that, that sometimes is not really there unless you're finding some other way. I will never ever say that there's not opportunity in the market, because anytime the market is open, there's always going to be opportunity. But is it worthwhile? Does it fit your personality? All those specific things. And yeah, I get very off topic that way. But back to GRTX again, 10 million floater. They do have that $250 million through a shelf and an ATM, but I'm too lazy to pay for the premium or just go through the filings to see how much of that they've already used. But the same thing too that I mentioned on that very first day is just, okay, do this. They have this huge gap down to fill on the daily, especially with this big volume 3 days here we've been having these past few days. Is that potential dilution or overhead going to come into effect now? It's obviously looming and pressing. It's just like a dark storm gray cloud in the distance of like, okay, is it going to come this way? We can kind of check the radar and understand that it's there, but you never really know until you know, right? And being in the trade is going to be the only thing that totally clarifies that understanding of, okay, yeah, that overhead is here. The pressure is on the sell side. But just, yeah, that being in the trenches is really, I think, the only way to truly understand, or just identifying, seeing that on the level 2 time and sales of, gosh, we are feeling absolutely heavy, or this thing just can't get anywhere off the ground, is really the only way. Or sometimes it just ends up being the unfortunate case of it gets this nice little breakout and all the little dip and rip longs are going, yeah, sweet, this is awesome trade, and then just gets slammed to the downside with that overhead, and you're like, oh, been through that few too many times to count. Again, I'm getting a little blindsided there, or off track on that sense, but short thesis trade for me on this one, again, modeling off of that same trade that BLU presented, what it wants to do on these third day plays, even second day plays too at times. Even in the volume profile looking at today, before in pre-market today too, we're developing the biggest peak little area is just right around this $3 whole dollar level area, a little right above that. So collection from that first day, the volume that was there, we actually even bounced resistance off of that $3 level area yesterday as well too. So being short in this, using that as a potential risk level to say, okay, if we can, I'll allow you to go and run and test there if you want to, but I'll be looking to short in you if you're posing any weakness around those points or resistance there to say, yeah, you can go this far, but no further, and then start dropping from there. Had we broken through that, then I obviously would have been cutting as the chart would have been a totally different trade at that point too, and I would have had to cut a loser as it showed that. But for my individual trades on this one itself, started in short just before market open on this little secondary VWAP rejection here, as it was just kind of putting in a little wall at 2.8 there to the upside. It just couldn't grab the legs. It was showing a little bit of higher lows here, coming back closer to VWAP with what dollar volume it did have on today. It was pretty decent, but it's not, of course, not the same as that first green day, or I don't think it's the same as that second green day either. And it did have a nice pull off of that, but found a little bit of support in this pre-market range that I did find earlier around 2.7. Started to bounce a little bit, and then I got totally faked out. These, again, too, are, as I'm still in this paper trading mode for shorting, and just paper trading kind of in general, too, the same thing with longs, but I am taking actual size, just not anywhere near the actual size I would want to be taking, just $100 or $200 at most that I'm sizing into more with that long side. Trading actual cash with a long side, but still paper on the short side, but I can't short pre-market through TradingView, so it's stupid. But so I end up, if I want to be short pre-market, I literally just call out, okay, I'm short at 278. I just literally have to end up doing that, because that's the clicking of the button for me. That's that action of just verbalizing and not just kind of mentally, okay, I'm in at 278, and then if it perks to like 282, then I'm like, oh, okay, well, I really wasn't short. I'm actually short there at 282. Like, no, holding myself accountable in that sense for what I can do right now on that paper side. But then we find that little base at 278, and I don't even know if I really should have factored that in, looking at this candle here that was a little bit of volume, or even this candle at that 7 a.m. Eastern time frame, this kind of wicky and weird candle with volume. But then we get this like lack of volume, lack of bid support, lack of like level 2 movement that just like starts printing super high, starts printing to 279, 28. Like, what the heck is going on? All right, we're going to cover. And I literally say that out loud to force myself to cover. Respecting price again, kind of like I mentioned at the start of this ticker, to say, okay, I'm not going to sit around and wait for a news catalyst if that's what's happening. If algos are somehow buying this and I'm not seeing it yet on my scanner here, or just what's happening or going on? Why is it doing this? But of course, it does end up being a huge little fake out and ends up pulling right back to that price that it was at before. So I said, oh, wow, okay, you got me. Sure, that's not going to be the last time that happened. And I just say, I'll let you do what you want to do before market open. It does get to market open here, and it has this little attempt above VWAP, but just gets slammed down again and continues to find resistance. So I started my short at 275 there, actually on the paper trade side through TradingView. And of course, the fills through that too. I can't expect or hold myself accountable. I know I probably could be getting better fills otherwise, or just it's like funky having it go back and forth that way too, but whatever. It's still the process of going through the trades and pushing a button, being in the trade itself. And got a nice little short right out of the gate there. Continued to dump in price, break that 2.7 mark, this little pre-market support we were building today. And I knew it was going to be profit target area for me too, was wanting this thing to go. Had this thing gone to a like full home run style of trade, we would have definitely have to been breaking the lows from that first screen day and continue to pick up speed through each and every one of these technical levels that it was building. You know, the 2.7 range here that it did in pre, and then the day yesterday, pick up steam through 2.5 at $0.50 level around there. And then the low of that candle from yesterday too. So that was the idea of the profit target, and of course the risk on the upside of that $3 level area. That way too, but again, just taking profits as they are there and not trying to hold and wait until it becomes a home run trade, but paying myself along the way. So covering in a little bit to this first flush here with these in volume, as it was putting in a little bit of a bid support, there was a lot of bid support and a lot of bidders showing all the way down. So I could totally have seen someone looking to play this as a dip and rip style of trade, and that's what I was really respecting the whole time with this short, that this could go right back to VWAP at any point of, okay, I think we were definitely building in a little bit of a base here around 264 to 266. So taking off a little bit to say if it does go back to VWAP and start to spank to a new high of day, okay, it wasn't necessarily a fully failed trade. Maybe I covered commissions, the borrowing fees on that trade for the little piece that I did cover there, but kind of how can we make a winner out of this, what would have been a loser if it did start to spike again. So just protecting ourselves that way, as the signs did point a little bit to the probability of this thing perking against us. But of course, we do break that low, start to pick up a little bit of speed, cover into this nice big volume push, covering into strength or volume. Yeah, red push here around 257-ish, 258-ish there. Does spike off of that, bounce off of there, but pulls back to new low day again, cover a little more from that breakthrough, and then does start to bounce off of there and just put in hard sideways action with little lackluster volume. At this point in the morning session, I'm going, yeah, I'd have like a few, maybe it was like a quarter or less of the position remaining. Again, just kind of random size, not focusing so hard on that position size at this point, but allowing the opportunity that I know I want to be scaling out to the profit taking side with my full position size when I go back to actually trading with that real cash. But looking at this one, it just the emotion that I was sitting in, or circumstances that I was sitting in of, I really think this one should be dying. It's the third day, that third day surge is not there. The volumes just kind of died off. We should be picking up steam through these levels to the downside, and it's just not happening. And for how the profits we've taken so far, it's a decent trade, and I'm not going to try to force anything else after it. So as it begins to pull and break this little sideways consolidation and shows some just a little bit of bid support and just kind of funkiness, I'm saying, okay, I'm done with this one. It's a little bit of a higher low that it's already building in. I'll take off at 255 here. And sure enough, call it intuition or dumb luck, it did just have a huge volume spike right back to VWAP there. And that would end up being the only low, the best opportunity price to fill that would be for the rest of the day, the intraday trade that I would be trading today too for that one. So kind of looked out with that. And then watching it back on the recap, the tape recap, it was interesting to see too that it was actually a pretty big wall of sellers against the price action here, and it just kind of got chipped away here within these 2 minute candles here, and then it would go up to 256. Okay, we got a little bit, obviously a bigger sized wall of sellers versus bidders at this point, but then it would just kind of get picked away there, and it just kind of kept riding against it that way. Just interesting price action that way of. Could somehow see some manipulation being responsible for that type of action. But again, of respect the price and just don't try to force a home run out of these trades when they're not saying that they're going to go that far. Just respecting what the market is there. So idea grade that I'm going to give myself on this one, I give it a B. I give it, I think there was potential opportunity that this thing could have a little bit more of a perk from where I was starting in short from that first minute candle of the day. And of course, just percentage wise moves, I really don't want to give myself an A grade unless it is that 10% move. That's really, even if the market's not showing it, man, we got to go somewhere else. We got to be looking for those 10% moves. It's nice and it's great and it's fun to be taking winners, to taking profits as they're there. But to give myself that really A rating, I just want to keep pushing more on the look where the volatility is, look where the opportunity is that way. For execution, give myself an A. I mean, for the chart today, execution-wise, taking away the idea of the trade, just everything around it, playing this chart today, man, kind of played it pretty pristinely. You can say to give myself an A plus or to give myself an A rating of, okay, well, I should have been holding all the way down and covering into this little bottom here, trying to be perfect. But I'm not going to hold myself to perfection on anything as I grade myself upon, because I will never be able to attain that. And I shouldn't be trying to force myself that way. I think it's a great idea, and it's always fun to highlight the areas of, okay, wow, if you were perfect today too, this is the type of chart, or this is the play you would have been getting to. But man, looking at the sell, looking at the covers, pretty pristine of just paying myself along the way and covering into lows as they were there and as they presented themselves on that trade today. Awesome opportunity. PTPI, my second one, this was the kind of just wash, a little bit of a winner, a little bit of a loser. I think I ended up actually in the red with the little shares I was trading, just because I do show the 2 times I got in and out on this one for the breakout attempt here, but I was in like 2 more times within this little chop. And even looking on the daily for just the crazy mess of a daily chart this is. This is at 6 million floater. They do have like 4 million shares left in warrants and another like $4 million left raisable through a shelf. Yes, choppy and weird, inconsistent daily. And trying to look on more of an intraday perspective here, you can say, okay, we're reversing off of that hard red day it had, but can it go up that quick after that hard red day it had? And it's funny because as I look back at it now, I can make the same argument for this daily here of trying to watch it reverse hard off of that first red day, reverse, like trying to create a perfect V off of that, as it was intraday here for the trade I was trying to trade on this little same type of cupish pattern here. I kind of see the same similarities of, can we get this little breakout attempt on the first little morning volatility push, then it pulls back to VWAP, finds some little rest, but then I'm trying to come in and out of it already within these little wicks here, and I forget the stupid fills, but just cents, of course, and stupid paper cuts that may or probably were a little bit bigger than they should have been, and just probably were terrible fills either way because I kind of was chasing price at that point too. But I can make the same argument against those trades that I was trading, this little stupid sales, as the same trade for this overall thesis on the day, in the same light of, okay, we get that pullback here. Do I think it could make a just perfect V? Rationally, do I think that's going to happen? Because that's the trade I was trading, not only intraday, but kind of also on the daily as well too. I'm expecting this thing to just continue to ride higher from there. And of course, crazier things have happened, but especially in the market that we're in now, the rationale behind that, I just did not think was there. So for that reason, I gave myself a C on that, kind of averaging myself there, because there was a little bit of opportunity. I did get a little bit of a slippage here. I was want to be more in on this wedge before it broke to the upside of VWAP there on the execution side. But in reality, I'm going to give myself a D for the idea on this one, just because of those factors. Yes, there was opportunity there, and that's the tough part about all of this, and the grading of it is you certainly could have pulled a profit out from this one, as you could a lot of other charts on this on any market. Being stupid, being ludicrous, you can definitely pull a profit out all of those ways. But for who I want to be as a trader in the future, I know that I got to hold myself a lot more accountable to the types of charts I'm trading and the entries and executions and the over trading aspect of that well too, and kind of leaving these things alone and only entering when there is substance there to trade upon. That is one of my key rules as well. I wrote in my journal here, this is another good opportunity or a good example of why taking profits into the breakout is a good practice to have. Not only is like shown it today that kind of would end up being the high for the morning volatility I was trading, but how much more of a feel that provides to the trade, to the price action, as compared to just kind of sitting and watching and letting it go through. Of course, I'm watching it and like, okay, we're at the breakout now. Okay, now it's peeling off a little bit more, but how much more too of, okay, if I have an order ready, I'm in this trade here, my second trade here, that I'll talk about as I'm still seeing it hold above VWAP. It's kind of putting in this nice little trend line still from the bottom here, from the open. Let's drop that we're still riding on. I think it still could wedge a little bit, still a little bit of opportunity left. It is a little bit exhaustive, or a lot of it to ask for this thing to rise so quickly, especially with the market sentiment today, the overall market today. Where was I going? Okay, I've kept watching for the breakout here, but having an order in ready to go at 342, 341, right at that high of day, to say, okay, if we reach that point, do I get filled? Do I get partially filled? Do I just get absolutely nothing? Was it just a quick algorithmic push to get the orders that were already waiting there from the all-knowing powers that be, that have been waiting there from market open for how long? Those orders have been sitting on the top of the deck to get filled first, and does it pull back off of that hard quickly? That's another huge indicator too that don't necessarily factor in by just sitting there watching the level 2 time sales of how big size of position you want to put into that educational experience or opportunity of that breakout trade, of that breakout sell, but how much more it does give information wise to the rest of the shares of that position, to the rest of the trade potential on that one for what could come about of that breakout trade for the day. Just a good example for me and good write in my journal on that one that I wrote there. So yeah, I mentioned I'm going to give myself, I kind of wrote a C for the idea grade that I gave myself, but I think it's going to end up being as a D rating for what opportunity was there today. And execution wise, it was just a D for me, especially to give myself an F. There would just have to be, I would have to take like zero profits or just be so stupid bag holdery, which I do not feel I was on this one. But obviously a heck of a lot more room for improvement. I did get that slippage in the entry, and I could chalk that up a little bit to how small the position size I'm trading on these ones, as I'm still in this cash account kind of paper trading route. I'm in the experimental educational position circumstance because sometimes not getting filled on that is because of the small position size and just not having the matched up seller for that. But I'm not going to use that as an excuse. I'm going to dog myself a little bit for that too. I only took off, I think, of the 6 shares that I was trading, I only took off like 1 share into this little top here because I thought there's got to be way more opportunity on the upside here. But looking back in hindsight, of course, maybe we could have taken off a little bit more, even that wasn't really anywhere close to what the profit target was going to be on this one. Again, that same thesis that we should have built in that I mentioned earlier of it is a lot to ask of this one to get very pushy. Crazier things have happened. Of course, it happened yesterday too for that type of price action, just pure green madness. But to do it for lightning to strike twice, that is a lot to ask of it. So D grade for me on that execution for today too, all around on all these trades. Yeah, factoring into of how I was just scalping myself in and out, just slashing my knees there with these little stupid buys that I thought I was buying in just right before the big crazy move. But gotta let it steepen, gotta let it stew there for that thing to grow. Those are all my traders on the day, all I wanted to mention, but of course we got to mention ADGI, like I mentioned in the introduction. 123% mover in the green today, finding a little base here in after hours off of that $13 level again. It looks great on this intraday here, especially for what it is, 50 million floater. I forget what this company even is. It's American Biotech. Love to see it, but on the daily, of course, we do have this huge old gap down. That was 3 days ago. I never really know how to say that. Like if it was 2 days ago, because it was like 2 days ago, but it was the after hours of yesterday. So 1, 2, 3. A few days ago, had a hard gap down off of some Omicron variant medical news, whatever, that obviously the market did not like. So that was a huge sell-off there. Not going to act like I'm a scientist and understand what the news actually was, but huge sell-off on that day. And then if we kind of get rid of that log screw up there, hard sell-off on that day after the hard fall-off in the after hours of the previous day. It just stays below VWAP the entire day, rejects right before the close there. Next day has gapped down a little bit and tries to open above VWAP, but slammed right down right after the morning bell. Tries to get to the upside of VWAP again, but continues to hug lower, hugging that 5.6 low, bouncing off that and coming above VWAP into a nice little close there. That's coming just under this range where it bounced on that first green day. And then we get kind of a flat open, not necessarily dying or gapping down, just more of a flat open for today, and continues to press more, and just ride all the way from an open of, like 630-ish, tapping out at $15 here. Absolutely insane. And we got 65% institutional ownership I'm seeing on this bad boy, but only reported short interest of like 6%. So it's to try to look in the fundamentals, like somebody's so over levered in this one. I could see a lot of retail idiots or monkeys being short this one, looking for the continued downtrend hold, that, oh, this is such an easy hold because it had this hard, crazy news. It's just got to continue dumping there. But for a reversal trade, man, they got certainly screwed out today for the price action that went against them. Had they been shorting anywhere market hours of that first red day, and anywhere in that little bit of after hours and pre-market of that day. So that was all pre-market actually on Tuesday. My mistake that way. But totally did not trade this whatsoever because of especially I'm not around the afternoon session, and just these ones, it's how much higher can it go? It's that DWAC fallacy that I always come back to with Roland Wolf of, man, these things go like 2,000%, but as it's already up 1,000%, to be able to push that buy button to say it's going to go further, it's a dilemma, and it's tough at times. That's what triggers all the FOMO, even in the best of guys. But yeah, just did not touch it. As Jack Schwartz even said, number 7 in the chat said, you could right around this time frame, 11:30-ish. This thing could just do so many different things. It could go rip to 20. It could pull back a little bit to $12. It could just consolidate and range bound itself for the rest of the afternoon. And that's what it ended up doing today. Has a little perk above that, but rejected quickly, and still in that range in the after hours here. It could do a lot of things. And long or short, it's just kind of tough to be a part of, and a headache both ways. Of, maybe you could call little scalps. You could pick apart little scalp opportunities there to say that there is, because I'm certainly sure there is a lot of perspectives to look at on this one. But yeah, I will just leave it for everybody else, at least for right now, and put my attention into where I feel I'm most confident in my personality-wise and where I'm at as a trader for right now. Nothing hard for me on the watch list or the scanners, or the most passionate about right now. Not seeing anything ludicrous, but we will go into the quad witch day tomorrow with open perspective of, if we get any volatility push, we're not going to try to force anything there or go crazy options wise on the market, or try to see what we want to do. But it might, especially for where we're at right now, be a tough call. If we start to break lows here, we might get even lower just before. We got 2 weeks now till the end of the year, so it will be very interesting to see where the market wants to take us there for those days. But that is all I had. I sincerely thank you guys for watching. I will catch you guys on the next one.